Serious, overnight hikers, hunters and outdoors people of Reddit, what creepy things have you experienced in the forest? I was solo camping the Chattooga River. It was maybe midnight when I felt my hammock start to shake violently. I poke my head out and it's a goddamn raccoon trying to steal my boots. This was my first time solo camping and I nearly shit a hole through my pants. And it didn't end there. Those little gremlins tormented me all night long, constantly trying to steal my shit. Moral to the story, don't feed the animals, people. Was riding my horse down a trail. Heard a noise, tink tink, like glass. Looked down and saw a mouse in a glass bottle, it couldn't get out. Stopped, tipped the bottle and let the little one go. Was riding my horse down a trail and heard a dog whine. Real quiet. I whistled, it started barking. Rode that way and found the dog. It was a German short-hair hunting dog who had tried to get out of a creek and had gotten his collar hung up in a root. Goodness knows how long he was there. He was skinny. On his last legs, if you know what I mean. Had a collar with owner info engraved. Called them and they were speechless. That dog had been missing for 3 weeks. He surely was in the water that long. Not exactly hiker/hunter/etc. but I was walking back to my parents' country house a bunch of years ago. It was this time of the year, so it got dark pretty soon. I was around 16 years old and coming back from meeting friends. 1 kilometer remaining of walk. On the other side of the road I saw a lantern, couldn't see any details of the person however. Seconds later, he or she aims at me with the light for what I felt so long, then it gets turned off and disappears in the darkness. I don't think I have ran faster in my life. My friend and I were searching for the perfect camping spot for about a year. After trying out quite a few, we found one that seemed perfect. It was about a half-hour walk from any trail or road and on top of a large cliff over a river. We got camp set up and decided to scout out around the area. It was getting dark, so we started heading back, following the sound of the river to guide us when we spotted something. A shack. We stop and look at each other, and decide we better investigate because it is pretty close to where we are going to be sleeping and this is weird. We get closer and realize it is basically a teepee made from scraps of aluminium and other sheet metal, and the top. There is an inflated air mattress inside, and wine and whiskey bottles everywhere. There was also porn and a lot of extremely weird objects that someone normally would not have out camping. This place is a couple hours from any town and, like I said, at least a half hour from any road or trail. There were no vehicles parked anywhere even remotely close because we would have seen them in our travels. We came to the conclusion that whoever had been here must have left, and they obviously did not want to be found. Then, on our way out, I noticed the campfire was still smoldering. We got the duck out of there, immediately packed up camp and blindly made our way back to the road. Duck that, I've watched enough horror movies to know that us teenage white boys would not be waking up that morning. I was spending 3 days kayaking on the Coorong. I was having a great time and really enjoying the serenity and listening to the native birds and just appreciating nature. On the first day I heard what I could have sworn was a human, not screaming, screeching I guess. I didn't think much of it and kept paddling. I saw what looked like a body close to the shore and found a seal that had just been eviscerated. Honestly, this thing was spread all over the beach. No footprints of any kind, just a seal in 100 pieces. After the screeching and the seal I was a little creeped out but just continued my trip. Nothing of event really happened that night except that I kept hearing splashes from the water in front of me, yet when I checked there was nothing there. The next day I went out again with the same plan. Just paddle until I got tired and then set up camp and go to bed. Unfortunately for me, I got stuck on mud bog and had to spend a solid hour dragging my kayak across this thing to get to the other side of the water where I saw a deeper channel and a bunch of sand dunes. After what feels like maybe 40 minutes of struggling with my kayak and this bog, I saw a figure atop one of the sand dunes. Logically it was probably a random tourist like me or maybe a kangaroo. I stared at it for a second before getting back to trying to cross this bog. When I looked back it was gone. Weird. Anyway, I set up camp for my last night. I was a bit creeped out by the seal and the noises and now this figure, so I made sure I had my knife with me. I set up my tent a bit away from the water in an open area so I could see everything around me. As I was eating dinner I couldn't help but feel I was being watched. As it was a total fire ban in the area, I didn't have a fire so I couldn't see much. I chalked it up to nerves and went for a short walk to explore the area I was in and wander down to the beach. Now for some context, the beach nearby is loud. You can't hear much other than crashing waves, which makes what happened next especially eerie. I heard that ducking screeching again and looked back to where I came from. Again a figure was standing in right by the path where I walked to the beach. Duck that, I thought. I pulled my knife out and approached where I thought I saw this thing. There was just a week-old fish that looked like it had been hung on the fence and forgotten. As I walked back down the path I heard what sounded like a kangaroo or wallaby just lightly hopping behind me, but when I looked back there was nothing there. Honestly, I just climbed into my tent and prayed to God there was nothing around. It's kind of anticlimactic, but nothing else really happened. I think I heard that screeching once more and then I didn't hear it again. Apparently there are a few indigenous graveyards in the area. I'm not one for superstition, but if I'm being honest, this experience really spooked me. Hiking alone in Washington. Late fall, so it's cold and few people on the trail. I'm halfway up a steep, switchback climb and laying down to take a break when two guys come along descending the trail. I wave and they wave back. As they get close, one of them suddenly says, "Oh, you're alone," and then smiles at his friend. I get a little freaked out and I guess my dog sensed it because she stood up and stared sternly at them. She's an 80-pound black lab and full of love, but can look very intimidating. The guys saw her and completely changed and quickly hurried on their way. I'm not sure if they were gonna do something creepy, but I picked a much less obvious campsite that night. The screech of an owl can be haunting. But the thing that freaked me out the most was a snake on top of the ocean surface. I'd never seen a snake around the beach before and I had no idea they could sit on top of the water like that. It was sort of mesmerizing, but I saw 3 of them that day on the beach and have never encountered snakes like that again. One was diving in a shallow pool hunting crabs and it just sat down on the bottom for longer than I thought would be possible. All in all, learned a lot about snakes that day. I was out camping one night by myself and started hearing voices. I was playing music and it was around 2 in the morning. My grandma's house was about 2 miles down the river and I thought it might have been my grandpa. So I turned off my music so I could tell back, but I heard a dog and my grandma or grandpa don't have dogs. Then I heard someone say the noise was this way. This genuinely freaked me out, so I climbed one of the pine trees and sat up there. About 5 to 7 minutes later I saw a flashlight in the distance and saw 2 people walking up. They were both men and there was I believe a husky German hybrid with them. They ransacked my camp and I swear they should have noticed me cause they shined the lights around and pasted right over me. After they left I started to walk home cause you know, duck that shit. I heard 2 loud bangs, sounded like a rifle, and I booked it. When I got home I stood in the porch for a second and saw their lights at the edge of the woods. I can assure you I will never camp alone again. It wasn't even hunting season, so they shouldn't have even been out with a gun, and if they were it should have been at least a handgun, not a rifle. But I'm still not sure what kind of gun it was. I hate dark forests now though, and I got hella bad paranoia from this. I was hunting coyotes in Utah near Dugway and my flashlight died. I was in an open field and wild horses got spooked while I was walking back to my truck. They were running all around and I was sure I was going to get trampled. Apparently when a beehive falls to the ground, bees still stay in it. Never have I accidentally stepped on something and had more instant regret. Was hiking along the north shore of Lake Superior in Minnesota. If you've never been, it's really thick old growth forest. There's a 360-mile hiking trail from Duluth to the Canadian border, really well-developed campsites and enough traffic that I wouldn't feel unsafe on it anywhere. For this particular trip, my hiking buddy and I, wanted to turn it into a loop instead of an out and back on the same trail. Scoped out a section that's connected with some back roads and a snowmobile trail that would work as our loop. As we're hiking on one of the dirt back roads, see a random dirt biker approach us, stop maybe 100 yards back, and stare for a while. Kind of unnerving with him just staring at us for a while, but he eventually turned and left. We eventually get to a log shelter on the snowmobile trail that we planned as campsite 1. Nice relaxing campsite, go to bed. Woke up in the middle of the night, full moon, and I swore there were 2 moonlit silhouettes standing on either side of my tent. Not sure if I dreamed it or it was real, but freaky as fuck. Remember just staying as still/silent as possible for as long as possible. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos.